We had a very clear voices. I sense certain differences in emphasis. You have to decode it sometimes, especially when diplomats are talking and when the members of the expert group decided not to publicize their inner deliberations, but I do see the difference in emphasis, and so I welcome you to share your views or to ask a question to a specific member of the panel. We have 2 microphones around the room, so let's... Ambassador of the United Kingdom.
As one of the things NATO does is role-playing exercises, I'd like to do a little role-play exercise with you. I'd like you to imagine that I am the sort of Pole I spend a lot of time talking to. And let me put to you some of the propositions which all the Poles here are far too sophisticated to advance, but I hear them quite a lot. Why is there this need for reassurance? Well, you have Russia on your borders, we can list the issues Russia faces, and that leads to the conclusion that Russia is indeed a sick man, but it's a sick man with a gun. The second thing, you have Georgia, as has been mentioned. You have had instances in which individual members of the EU have had problems with Russia, like Estonia, and there was a general sound of running away as European members of NATO said this is a bilateral issue. You have the question of the Nord Stream pipeline, which Poles see as solely designed to enable the gas to be turned off in Poland while the lights burn on in Rügen and Weiden. So I think, and you have also the question of reset, which is sometimes seen by my Polish friends as Barack Obama saying, Vladimir, you can have Ukraine. So I think now, we can go through all of these and say that they're wrong, but I think if you take all this together, there is, I would say, a certain number of reasons why people here might ask for reassurance. That's the end of my role play. Thank you.
Me, sir, I nominate you honorary Pole. Okay, very good question. Very good question. Why? People here in this part of the world need reassurance, and the ambassador effectively have listed actually a few one. Is someone who would like to take? Pam, maybe? Would you?
Well, I would like to say that it is, in my view, to some extent in all the comments what were presented a while ago, there are some elements why. And one, what seems to me very important, and nobody said at least outside today, I do not remember in the morning session and now, that we are in the such a stage of the development of the alliance that it is a new generation of people who do not remember, I would say, what does it mean a war, and therefore alliance lost its significance in perception. Alliance, as Ron rightly mentioned, is not very popular. People do not believe that this alliance, in a critical situation, is in a position to defend the country, to protect the country. One of the elements was mentioned, I would say it was an experience of August 2008, but not the only one. And in a sense, I would like to say that it is a need to revitalize and to make the alliance much more credible, convincing, and attractive for the new generation. Because, in fact, all the generations are shaping security system for themselves. They are not only, I would say, within the channel of continuity. They are raising the question whether this alliance is adequate to the new risks, new threats, new challenges. People today in the morning session, they mentioned a lot of the factors, new factors of new security environment. But in fact, I would say the need to revitalize, I would say, the whole system of security is, I would say, connected with the lack of conviction that what we got is really what we need for the next decade.
I think three things happened. One, let's be honest, if we had done everything we promised the Poles we would do in 1997 and 98, the debate would be very different today. We, NATO, and the United States did not carry through with our pledges to do reassurance. We have not had a single military exercise in Central and Eastern Europe since the beginning of enlargement. That's not what we pledged. And when we came here, and when I came here as a diplomat with 4-star generals, we told Poland we would have a Corps-sized reinforcement capacity that would be trained and exercised on Polish soil, and we haven't done it. Second, we had the Iraq War, and we've had caveats in Afghanistan, so Poland joins the alliance, watches the alliance split very badly over the issue of Iraq, sees all these caveats in Afghanistan, and asks itself the question, is all this going to go away when it's a question of a crisis in Central Europe and everybody's going to line up immediately and exercise solidarity? And we have to answer that question. And 3, we've had the Russian-Georgian War, which suggested that countries still break rules in Europe that are the core of the Helsinki commitments. And maybe not very much happens. So, but let's be honest, a big part of this is a self-inflicted wound by ourselves that we can fix. Because I don't think this problem is insurmountable, and I think the answer is out here in this conversation. It is this dual-track strategy, and I think as Hans reminds us, if the politics, I mean, this is as much a political problem as it is a military problem. Probably more a political problem than it is a military problem. Because if you believe your allies are going to be there, you're less worried about having the tripwire, if we're going to be very blunt about it. And the call for the tripwire is a reflection of the fact that Poland's not sure its allies are going to be there. So let's have that conversation to build that solidarity, and the demand for the tripwire will go down, is my prediction. And that's what we need to do politically and then there's a military component of things we should be doing anyways as part of a normal alliance, which we should have been doing all along.
Microphone, do you want to say something about the American cavalry? No? Okay.
Right. Yeah. All I would want to add, and I agree, insofar as I'm not part of the administration that made the promises that were broken, I can say, however, not fulfilled yet. I am part of the administration that says these promises will be fulfilled and that we are looking how to close that gap. But the only other observation that I would make is during this same period of time when all the stuff that was going on that Ron pointed rightly to happened, we also did something pretty remarkable as an alliance, and we should not lose track of that. We became a war-fighting machine. And one of the most effective, even though we have our challenges, one of the most effective war-fighting machines in the world. We pulled together, we showed that we could be operationally effective. The learning experiences that we have had, for reasons that perhaps we would rather not have had to get into, but nevertheless, the learning experiences that we have had over the last 8 years have helped us as an alliance. And while we started with perhaps the vision of the Volga Gap and the massing of troops and big exercises, what we did over the last 10 years is fast forward well into the 21st century into a new kind of warfighting, which we are in fact preparing ourselves for, and which in fact we do train for, including on Polish soil, in a very serious way.